So we felt that if you want to have legitimacy in the space and really be able to go after, real business like good issuers, broker dealers, etc., you have to have, also investors that come from that space. So early on, after we did our CSA back in November, we started approaching banks and talked to them about trying to evangelize about the importance of digital securities and how they can actually improve their processes by digitizing securities on the blockchain. And that conversation led to some of them starting doing some projects with us and then saying, okay, we're going to do a project with you, so I might as well invest in you as well, so I can then benefit from the upside it's going to give to your company, and then really make sure there's an internal alignment between what we do. So we were very fortunate. We got Banco Santander, which is the largest bank in Europe. We got Mitsubishi UFJ, which is the largest bank in Japan and fifth largest bank in the world after all Chinese banks. And we got Nomura Securities, which is one of the largest securities firms in the world. So I cannot be more pleased about the news, and I hope that people take it as a step forward for the entire industry, not just for Securitize, because this brings, the validation of the space that everyone needs, not just us. So. Actually, they're all super interested, and you'll be surprised they're super knowledgeable. And they all have very good, DLT, blockchain, digital asset teams, whatever they want to call it, depending on the bank, and they all have deep capital markets experience as well as technology experience, and they all understand that blockchain is the solution for basically digitizing the entire process of issuing and managing securities. Because today it's very broken, so it's very dysfunctional. There's a lot of rent seekers, there's a lot of disconnect systems that are there, it's lack of liquidity in some markets, etc. So I think these banks, they all have a very good understanding about how this technology can actually help them improve. That said, it's going to take a long time. It's not going to happen tomorrow because obviously these are very, very, very large corporations. So Banco Santander is, the largest, publicly traded company in Spain and is the largest bank in Europe. So you're not going to change how they do things tomorrow. But the good thing is that they support us with funding, so we can stay here for the long term, and then we can work with them and help them improve their internal systems to digitize the process of managing securities using blockchain technology. So, as you know, in the US, you don't have to have a transfer agent to deal with certain type of securities. So far we were operating without being a transfer agent, and it was not a problem from a regulatory perspective. But we always felt that being regulated gives confidence to people that what we're doing is legit. We felt like by having an SEC regulated license is going to allow us to do two things. One is going to allow us to basically deal with all the type of securities that you have to have a license to deal with, like Reg A+, public securities, being able to conduct corporate actions like paying dividends and things like that some people are doing in the blockchain industry, but is it completely illegal? But anyway, we wanted to do it on the legal way. Yeah. And the second thing is, even for the people that we actually don't need to have a license, to give them the comfort that we're so confident that what we do is compliant, that we don't have a problem with reporting to the SEC about what we do with the securities, because it's going to give them comfort that what we do is legal. So. I think for issuers is basically a number of things. Obviously, some of the issuers are looking for capital formation. Today, that's tough because it's not really there. I think many of the issuers that work with us, they're just basically looking at automation of the process of issuing the security and managing the security once it's been issued. Because a lot of issuers, once they issue the security, they have a lot of problems, or like paying a dividend, and they have to use a transfer agent and pay 3% to pay a dividend and things like that we can actually basically simplify. For investors, is basically reducing the cost of holding the security. Like, most people don't understand that if you're an investor and you invest in a security that pays a dividend, for instance, as I mentioned, you're not going to get 100% of your dividend because the issuer has to use a transfer agent that is going to actually take a cut of that dividend that comes to you. And typically it's could be up to 3%, which is ridiculous. Wow. Because it's basically a check that they send you on the mail. So for investors, even though maybe they don't perceive it as an advantage to them, it basically makes their investment better. Also, you could think of that investment having a higher rating because it's more transparent, because all the documents of, let's say, a loan issuance are on the blockchain, and therefore the investment is higher rating, and therefore the investor is more protected. So I think there's a lot of improvements for investors that might not be as obvious as for, let's say, issuers or broker dealers, but that over time we hope that they will realize about it. In the financial services industry, there's two types of intermediaries. Ones that are required by the regulator, the ones that are just there to fix a problem because they can't do any better than that, and then therefore they do it. So I think that our approach is that for the intermediaries that are regulated, because you can't really fight the regulator and tell them like remove this. So we're going to get the license, but we're trying to be better, cheaper, faster, more efficient. So provide a better service. And for the ones that are not necessarily because of the regulation, we're going to try to replace them. And that's kind of the approach we've been following. So there's certain intermediaries, like let's say a transfer agent, that actually the SEC says you have to have a transfer agent. So we become a transfer agent, but we're going to be a much more efficient, cheaper, faster transfer agent than a traditional one. But there's other, let's say, like an issuance and paying agent that you actually don't require by regulation, but they play a role, because today there's no other way to maybe pay, a commercial paper note when it matures to the investor, because you know who they are. But we can do that on the blockchain, and we actually don't need an intermediary. So we're going to try to replace those guys and disintermediate them. I think we just did a big update, but I'm in Japan next week. We got out of the funding round. Besides Mitsubishi UFJ and Nomura Securities, we also got Mitsui Fudosan, which is the largest real estate business in Japan, and we got KDDI, which is the second largest telco that has the biggest fintech business in Japan. So we're very excited about the country, and probably you don't know, but I actually lived for 15 years in Japan and speak Japanese and study at the Tokyo Institute of Technology. For me, it's like my second home, so I'm very excited about having had these investors coming from a country that feels very close to me and being able to develop the business there. And at the end of the day, it's the third largest economy in the world, and it's highly digitized, so we think there's a lot of opportunities there.